What is up, everybody? Solomon here. Super excited to be with Genfinity, interviewing a multitude of builders across Web3. It's been a little while. I mean, I know I was telling Min before we went live here, I think the last interview that we did was at Consensus 2020. I want to say it was 2024. So I'm super excited to get into the weeds with you again today, Min. For those that aren't aware, Min is the EVP of Ecosystem Growth, or Executive Vice President with the Algorand Foundation. We're going to be diving deep into the weeds into a couple of things today, builder and startup programs, so the Accelerator and kind of this masterclass you guys are putting on. But first things first, Min, how are you doing today? It's been a while since we've talked.
Yeah, it's good to see you. I'm doing well. I'm doing well here in California.
Well, I mean, I think one of the things that we've seen over the past few years is, you know, we do see a lot of hackathons, and I think hackathons are great, but I've seen kind of this shift and pivot towards some more focused kind of accelerator programs that take real world products and projects kind of to market here. So you guys just kind of announced this 2025 Algorand Accelerator. I know you did a Twitter space earlier today. Tell us a little bit of what we're looking at here with this.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, today is the day. We just officially opened applications. So this is great timing. So as you said, we've had iterations. So we've had multiple different types of accelerators. We've had hackathons, and we've learned a ton. Some, what works and what doesn't. And one of the things that we have learned is really what, especially on the startup side of things, what they really want and what they really need and what's really missing is the scaffolding for startup founders to understand what it means to launch a company, what they need to successfully think about a business model, and how do they, pitch in front of investors. And so that's what this Algorand Accelerator program, which is led by Joanna Lacerda, who did the space earlier today. So for those of you who haven't listened or tuned into that, the recording has a lot of great details about what exactly is planned for the year. But at a high level, we sort of see this as like, 60-40, development, technical, and business content. But it really comes just in terms of like sort of the content, it's four things. One is startup coaching, right? Like I said, it's about like team formation. How do I think about what do I need? What do I need for an entity, et cetera? Two is the business workshops. So it is, business 101, business revenue models, user acquisition, product market fit, fundamentals that you need to build a startup. Three is the technical stuff. So, of course, deep dives on Algorand, blockchain, smart contracts, like what are the right ways to kind of like set technical infrastructure. And then lastly, and I think this is one that is super critical, is mentorship. It is sort of pairing you up with entrepreneurs, whether it's in the ecosystem or other entrepreneurs outside the ecosystem. But we know that it gets lonely. It gets lonely being an entrepreneur, starting your own thing and, talking to the walls. And so we want to make sure that you have the support to kind of, power through the ups and the downs of launching your own startup. So this is sort of the, all-encompassing accelerator program that we are launching. This is going to be, I think we're opening applications today, of course, and I think we'll sort of do it on a rolling basis for the next month. But we're really excited to have projects that are pushing the boundaries of building on the blockchain. Come and join us in this journey. I think it'll be really exciting. Oh, and then sorry, the one last thing is, of course, all this is culminating in a demo day in October. Oh yeah, that's a great view right there of just kind of the journey that we sort of think we want you to go through. And at the end, there will be a pitch day in front of investors and in front of Algorand Ventures. So, that'll be exciting.
Awesome. I think, it's kind of interesting, and I'm curious your thoughts on this. Like, this space is consistently evolving as far as like the ways that blockchain and distributed ledger tech are being kind of leveraged out there in the real world. What are some of the pain points that you see with entrepreneurs and innovators that are trying to leverage the technology? Because I think what we see sometimes, like on on crypto Twitter is,
Mhm.
you have really strong developers, but not necessarily, they need some help on the marketing end to get their product out there, or
Mhm.
sometimes it's the opposite end of the spectrum. I'm curious from your standpoint, is it all different, or are there some pain points that are pretty consistent with what you see? Just your thoughts on that in general.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little bit biased because I'm a little bit biased partially because in the past, what we've done is we've done these hackathons and we really focus on developers, and we evaluate projects based on technically how good they are, and then we see one of the gaps that we then see is that what ends up happening is a lot of times when you have a solo founder that's either good on the technical side, then they don't quite have the complementary business skills. And then vice versa, if you have somebody that has really good business idea, they're out there just trying to source talent, source developers to come be part of their team. And that's why, and maybe I kind of glossed over this a little bit, but a big part of this accelerator is the team formation. And then a really I think exciting and I think smart strategy here is we have this talent pool that we're going to be tapping into for builders who are not technical, that want to launch ideas and are looking for a developer who is familiar with Algorand. And so it's not that it's so unique per se, right? But it's just that we want to make it easy for anybody that's looking for developers and vice versa. So it's the same story no matter where you go, no matter if it's Web3 or Web2 or Algorand or Solana, but it's just how do we make it super easy and make it kind of simple for the founders and the startup to actually go that path.
100%. And I think you guys have a nice image here. It helps me because sometimes like I've done this in the past where like I'll prep a bunch of questions for certain things, and normally it just ends up being like on the fly anyways. And I think you guys have a really nice roadmap here. I think we've seen, like I said, a lot of shifts in this space recently. I'm curious from your end, like what you're excited about potentially seeing from a value proposition standpoint. Like there's things that stick out over the past, year or so, like the agentic AI stuff that's starting to happen, and RWAs and everything else. What do you think is going to shake out of something like this? Or have you seen a shift in the way that builders are thinking about their ideas that they want to kind of go to market with, given some of the prevailing narratives in this space?
Well, I mean, I think we can't avoid AI, if you will, right? So even if you tried, and I think, so I'm excited for, and looking forward to all the potential AI projects that could come out of here. That's for sure. I think the other thing is, this is a little bit biased and topical, of course, but we saw Alpha Arcade recently launch. For those of you who are not familiar, they are a predictions market platform. They launched right around Super Bowl, and they have now seen over 400 markets and 2 million, transactions, et cetera. So they're getting really great traction. I feel like, and the thing that really caught my attention actually when I was talking to Max, who is the CEO of Alpha Arcade, he said that it's super sticky and that users are having fun on Alpha Arcade. And I was like, what a great way to describe how we want users to feel when they are interacting with a Web3 platform, which I feel like very few have that fun element to it. And so I think what's also kind of back to your question of like, where am I excited about? I think builders are more thinking about user experience, UI, and I expect more of our builders coming out of this cohort to think about that as like, how do you most easily interact with users, make it fun for the users, and get them to be really sticky. And again, this is also, again, topical because we just recently launched ALGO Kit 3.0, right? And we're supporting TypeScript. And so all this stuff is really making it easy for builders to think about the front end and make it super easy and super intuitive and fun. So that's a little bit broad, but that's what I'm actually pretty excited about as well.
I'll give a self shout out to Genfinity here, but if you guys are interested, we did a breakdown of Algo Kit 3.0, and I know Min mentioned Max and Alpha Arcade. I just interviewed Alpha Arcade a few days ago. I had similar sentiments. Like, I think what's really cool is we're starting to see projects that can, like, from their angle, and I brought this up in the interview, like, they can legitimately talk about anything in the world that they want to talk about. And it doesn't even have to necessarily be Web3 native, which I think is like the stickiest point of it. Is it's like, we can talk about trending global topics and everybody can engage with them very naturally. And I think it's a really, really kind of smart idea. And that, I think, is an interesting kind of lead in, because I know that the next portion of the roadmap here for you guys is sales model. I think this has been one of the things that I think it's starting to shift, but there's a lot of like issues sometimes with like product market fit out there in the real world with projects that are trying to, number one, be super innovative and build really cool technology, but finding, that sticky point in the real world for, how do I make this business model continue to grow? So what have you seen? Have you seen a shift in like real world kind of sales models and product market fit for people leveraging the tech? Do you think we're getting to a point where we'll start seeing more kind of use cases that can generate, self-sustaining revenue and that stuff, or just your thoughts in general on that?
Yeah, I mean, my quick thought is we have to get there, right? As an industry and as an ecosystem, we all have to get to a place where we have sustainable business revenue models to make this work, right? I have seen, it started out, I would say, more so on tokenomics, right? Like, projects traditionally start thinking about launching a token and tokenomics. And of course, now that's still very important and something that they think about. But more and more, we are seeing projects think about revenue models. And I don't think it's necessarily finding new revenue models, but it's almost like there are certain revenue models, and this is one of the sessions that we're going to be going into for the Accelerator. There are revenue models that work, right? It's a revenue share revenue model. There's SaaS, monthly, recurring revenue model. There's fee for usage model, premium model. There are all these great business models. It's just being thoughtful about what you're trying to build and seeing what is the right model that fits your product. But before even revenue model, the thing that we're going to really focus on also for our projects is like finding the fit, finding the product market fit, which means, do you know who you're going after? Who is your target audience? Is it a retail user? In which case, maybe it is, you can do revenue share on volume and transactions. Is it an institutional user? In which case, you're going to be thinking more enterprise business models. So I think it's just being very clear about who you're going to go after. And that's something that we're, making sure that we're going to talk to all of our projects about. And by the way, this is, there's so many parts about, the startup programs and Accelerate programs that I feel like I've missed a few things. But as I'm talking through it, this is coming back to me. One of the things, that we are also offering for startups in this program is what we call bridge services. And the reason for bridge services and what it is that we, not all startups need the same thing, but sometimes startups need legal help. Sometimes startups need design help or UI help or product help or marketing help. And so we've gone out and partnered with, these different services, and we can package it up for startups to leverage these services. And all that is to say that there's so many different aspects of launching and starting a company that if there are things that, and I don't know everything, you don't know everything, like nobody knows everything, right? So we should also feel comfortable leaning on experts that have done this before to know how to do this properly. And so, on the business model side of things, like if you are a SaaS company and you're looking for a business model, we want to hook you up with perhaps like a consulting firm that has done this before with other SaaS companies. Like, I think it's just about helping you be thoughtful and be smart about the decisions you make for your company and for your product.
Totally. And I think it's interesting. I brought this up before. I remember going to PyCon last year because it was like 10 minutes from my house. And that was when ALGO Kit 2.0 launched with Python. And, you saw like the Bloombergs of the world and all sorts of different companies there. And it was like literally just God's honest truth. It was kind of an eye-opening moment for me to only see Algorand there representing the blockchain space in an entire kind of conference of people leveraging Python. And now more recently, you mentioned AlgoKit 3.0 with TypeScript. What do you expect to see as you continue with accelerators like this? Because you're opening the door for more developers that are native in these different languages to start building on Algorand. Do you expect it to be an immediate impact? What was the response like with Python, and what do you expect to kind of happen with TypeScript and the overlap into these?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So, I mean, a couple different questions I think you asked in there. One is, what do we expect? I mean, I think at a high level, I'm excited because I'm expecting a whole new pool of talent coming into Algorand, which means new ideas, which means, new products and but also new challenges. So I think I expect sort of influx of diversity of ideas and platforms. But I think also what this means is, well, one of the things we've learned from our Python launch was that, there are tens of millions of Python developers, but not all Python developers know blockchain, right? So it's almost like we learned it a little bit the hard way, that we have to do a little bit more handholding for those developers to come and build on Algorand. And we expect to have to do the same for these TypeScript developers as well. Just because they're TypeScript developers doesn't mean they know what it means to build on a blockchain, and let alone Algorand. So I think there's going to be more of that education that we will have to do. But I think what they will bring is sort of other expertise around building applications, so that to the ecosystem. And I think what actually, this is us going backwards a little bit, but like, what we're doing in this whole, before the accelerator program, actually, we have Camilo, who leads our builder programs. And this is exactly what he's thinking about, working closely with the DevRel team. Yes, we're going to attract these new developers to come to Algorand. But we have to, one, build the awareness, meaning we have to find the communities out there. PyCon is a really great one, right? We're going to go after the TypeScript community as well, just like educate them, bring awareness to them. And then this is a little bit interesting, as you can probably relate to, like, not all developers are builders, right? And in that sense, meaning to me, the way Camilo has always talked about this is like, developers want to just be in the code. They just want to be coding, but builders want to code, and they have ideas that they want to like tinker with, So it's almost like we got to go find the developers that are building on TypeScript, on Python, teach them about blockchain. We got to find the ones, and this is, personally, more sort of selfishly for my team, right? Like, then we got to find the builders in that pool that really want to launch startups on Algorand. And then we want to put them through, our builder program, which is a little bit the masterclasses, which is what you mentioned, right? And the masterclasses is like, we actually have, I'm super excited. We have over 700 people registered already for the masterclasses. So it feels like we've hit a gap, meaning, right? Like, there's something there. People are excited about these master classes. It's really teaching the fundamentals. Like, what is blockchain? What is Algorand? I have an idea. How do I go from this idea to something tangible? You may not have to you don't have to code. We're going to give you some, no code tools for you to do a POC so you can test it in the market. This is just like giving people a way to kind of like test out, does this idea make sense? Can I pitch this idea? How do I do this before the accelerator, right? By the time you get to an accelerator, you already know that you want to launch something. So this is kind of to empower the builders to be able to like launch ideas. And I think this is incredibly important as we start tapping into the Python and TypeScript community, because again, like I said, they're not necessarily familiar with blockchain or Algorand.
Yeah. And I think, I'm curious if you could just talk a little bit about some of the mentorship that's going to be going on. I see both in the masterclass and in the accelerator, there's mentorship aspects. And I think the other interesting thing is like, okay, well, there's a demo day. So like, I'm always interested to see like who, who's sitting in the audience and kind of watching these things being demoed, because I think we've also seen a shift with some really interesting like real world players that are kind of having eyes on some of these demos that are coming out of these accelerators. So if you could maybe talk a little bit about that, that'd be great.
For sure. So the mentorship for the masterclasses and the mentorship for accelerators will be a little bit different, right? Because the masterclasses is much more kind of giving them the internal resources to help them learn and help them just like tinker. The mentorship for the accelerator is a little bit more around like finding entrepreneurs who've gone through this before to really partner with the startups. And also the numbers will be different, right? There are hundreds of people that have signed up for masterclasses. There will only be a select number of startups that are going to come through the accelerator. So the accelerator is going to be much more customized versus the master classes. But on the demo day, we are still kind of, we have a few things that we do know. So first of all, Amar, who recently joined to lead investor relations and Algorand Ventures for us, is building and continuing to kind of build and foster relationships with the investor community out there. So we want to make sure that we have investors as part of demo day. We want to make sure we have relevant, I guess, depending on how the projects shake out in terms of, are they more AI? Are there more, a real world asset? Is there more predictions market, et cetera? I think I want to make sure that there are also relevant sort of like category vertical specific folks in the audience to kind of help ask the right questions. And really, of course, demo day is all about, at YC, demo day is all about raising fundraising, right? But I think demo day also should be a validation point for a lot of these projects, like making sure that you've been thinking about this idea, you think you solved it, making sure that you're asking the right questions, I think is also a really important part of demo day as well. So I think I want to make sure there's a mix of people who are looking to invest, people who are experts, and also Algorand people, right? Like people who are very, very familiar with Algorand, who in some ways can really help make sure, like, are you leveraging atomic swaps? Are you leveraging finality, right? Like in the right way? Are you implementing your platform the right way from a technical perspective as well? So I think we would want a nice mix of all these for our demo day. And so that's gonna be in October. So I think we're still gonna sort of wait and see how things shake out and then form that.
I think along the entire journey, and you mentioned it too, like between the developers and builders, and I 1,000% agree with you. Like, I think it's kind of about giving people a voice in different ways sometimes, because I've interviewed super developers that are like really freaking smart, like way beyond what I could even interpret or even understand. But like, it's kind of about finding the right way to kind of engage with people. And I think it's really important to give everybody a voice. Like, I would love, like, if you guys get through the accelerator, to be able to like showcase some of the really cool stuff that comes out of that too, because I'm sure there's going to be some awesome use cases here. But I know we're kind of ramping down, and I want to make sure we don't miss anything. I know the masterclass you can register for right now, as well as the accelerator, which just went live today. I'm going to ask you the low-hanging fruit question here, and I'm sure there's a lot, and it might be a longer answer. What are you really excited about kind of moving forward into 2025? There's been a lot of milestones. If you guys are interested in the milestones, you can we've really compiled a bunch in here. I know Alpha Arcade, we just interviewed them. Folks Finance is coming on Thursday, but from your end, there's a lot of industry milestones. There's a lot of Algorand-specific milestones. What are you most excited about in the vein of, just in general?
Yeah. Well, for the Algorand milestones, I mean, you actually have it here. I see sort of, as you guys all know, we launched staking rewards in the beginning of this year. That, I think we've been super excited and very, very pleased with the progress so far in terms of, that the network. I think last I checked, it was 1.7 billion algos staked, right? With over 2,000 accounts. I feel like this is only the beginning. Like, I am so excited about the progress that we will be making in 2025 around decentralizing the network, making it more secure, getting more accounts to stake, getting more algos to participate in consensus. That's a big initiative, and it's also like working with exchanges and partners and institutional partners to support staking for Algorand. I think that is going to be a continuing effort and a big priority for us, because it really is an important step towards decentralization. You know, of course, that is not, there's all this, stuff that's we're working on in the ecosystem, et cetera. But I think that is just number one, a super important focus for us. And then, selfishly, a big milestone I want to make sure we achieve is that coming out of the builder program, coming out of the startup program, that we have, call it 10 exciting, fun, investable startups that launch on Algorand, and then call it 2-3 years. It would be amazing to have a unicorn on Algorand, right? Like, these are just like the most important, I think, metric of any ecosystem's growth is the pipeline of startups and the innovation that comes with those startups that are building in that ecosystem. And that is super important no matter what ecosystem you're in. So like, that to me is a North Star that I want to always hold us accountable to.
Do you think, and I, again, just kind of my last question here, curiosity wise, I think like I've had the opportunity in the past to judge like a hackathon. And I think it was very clear even through that judging process that like there were some applicants into that were like almost like bounty hunting hackathon grants. Cause I could tell that like it was just like a swap and replace naming convention that I'm just like, what am I looking at?
Yeah.
Do you think we're shifting towards like, because obviously the goal here, and it's just like same thing with kind of let's get more wallets or let's get more actual users, like encouraging people to come and to stay on the network and to continue building. Do you think that like accelerators like this, where you're really comprehensively like supporting builders, what's that shift going to be like for getting people to come to the network, but then stay and continue to grow their business model out on the network and things like that? Is that something we should expect to see?
100%. I mean, that's the reason why we are launching our own accelerator internally rather than partnering with an external partner to run it, right? Like we want to prioritize quality over quantity. And, Joanna can sort of vouch for this when I say that in our criteria for accepting startups to come into this accelerator, it's not necessarily how well you know Algorand, but it's how well do the founders understand why they want to build on Algorand, right? And so John Woods and everybody has said this before, not every idea needs a blockchain behind it. And, and not every Web3 project needs Algorand behind it. We just want to find the ones that really make sense. Like, I've been working closely with the Pera team on the Pera Card, right? And so there's a reason why we want to launch a debit card on Algorand, the network, right? Because the way that immersive works is it's going to settle and all the balances are going to be on chain on the Algorand blockchain. And the reason why that works is because we have finality. You can have certainty that your balance is indeed the balance that's showing on chain. And so I think, that's a very, very, very important and differentiated use case of the blockchain for a card. And so we want to make sure that we prioritize those types of factors when we're evaluating startups. And then also, and I do think the days of bounty hunting, Algorand hunting, grant hunting, whatever we want to call it, is ideally, I think, hopefully, maybe, fingers crossed, coming to an end, because it doesn't get you anywhere.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it's like, I think in this space, the most successful people and projects are the ones that are authentic. And I think that in order to get authentic individuals, I mean, it's easy to see, like, you guys are doing the work through like a masterclass, which kind of gets people onboarded into all aspects of knowledge within the ecosystem. And then kind of naturally leading into an accelerator program, which allows people to really expand out their position in the ecosystem by building out whatever they want to build. Because that's the ethos of Web3. Definitely want to give a shout out to the accelerator, and make sure you guys go check it out. There's information on algorand.co. You can find it. The masterclass as well. Go to Algorand Foundation's X. They just did a space this morning on the accelerator. You're going to get a lot of information in there. Min, I really appreciate you coming on today. Let's not make it, it's been a little bit over almost a year. Let's not make it a year before next time. I'd love to bring you back on again. I would love to talk to some of the Accelerator projects as well. Hang out with me for 1 second here as I ramp this down to make sure I get the recordings, and thank you to the audience as well.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. This is fun.